Everyone thinks turning 18 is supposed to feel like freedom. But on my 18th birthday, the day I thought my life would finally begin, my parents made sure it ended instead. While I was working a double shift, my mom texted me 6 words that shattered everything I believed about family. "We sold your car. Family comes first." Then came the second blow. "Your brother's college bill is due. You'll pay $6,000. When I said no, my dad screamed, "Pack your stuff, you're dead to me." So I walked out, not knowing they would soon be begging for my help. Most people wake up on their 18th birthday to balloons, breakfast in bed, or at least a warm hug from someone who cares. I woke up to my phone buzzing at 6:03 a.m., my manager asking if I could cover a double shift because another server called in sick. And because saying no had never been an option in my life, I rolled out of bed, tied my hair back, and left for work before the sun was even up. The diner was already packed when I arrived. Screaming toddlers, burnt coffee, a broken AC unit turning the entire place into a humid box. Exactly the kind of chaos you hope doesn't happen on your birthday. Not that anyone in my family cared enough to remember. I worked through the morning rush, trays balanced on aching hands, feet throbbing, stomach empty. Every now and then one of my coworkers would ask, "You doing anything special tonight?" I'd smile and lie, "Just spending time with family." What a joke. My family didn't celebrate me. They celebrated my usefulness. To them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a reliable employee they didn't have to pay. Ever since I turned 16, every paycheck I earned went somewhere in the house. Groceries, utilities, emergency expenses, and most importantly, my younger brother's whims. My parents called it contributing. I called it exploitation. But saying anything only made things worse, so I kept quiet and worked harder. The one thing that belonged solely to me was my car. A faded silver sedan I had bought by working 2 jobs all summer, saving every dollar while my friends spent theirs on beach trips. That car was freedom. Independence. Proof that I could build something for myself despite everything my parents took. Around noon, while I wiped down a table for the 10th time, my manager stuck her head out of the kitchen. "Your phone's been buzzing non-stop," she said. "Go check it, hon. Might be important." I nodded, drying my hands on my apron as I walked to the staff room. I expected a birthday text from at least someone. Maybe a quick, "Happy birthday" from my cousin. Maybe even a generic post from my mom on Facebook, pretending to be the loving mother she never was. But when I unlocked my phone, only one message lit up the screen. "We sold your car. Family comes first. Be grateful we let you live here." I stared at it for a full minute, unable to breathe. My core. My one accomplishment. Gone, without my permission, without a conversation, without even the courtesy of a warning. Sold. On my birthday. I felt the diner spin around me as the truth settled like a stone in my stomach. My parents didn't love me. They loved what I could provide. In this text. This was only the beginning. I must have read the message 10 times, hoping, praying, that I'd misunderstood it. Maybe she meant they borrowed my car. Maybe she was joking, being dramatic, anything other than what the words clearly said. But no. My mother didn't joke. Not about money. Not about control. I was still staring at the screen when another notification appeared. A second text. And somehow, it was worse. "Oh, and your brother's college starts next week. You'll cover his first semester. $6,000. Due this week." My throat closed. $6,000. I couldn't even afford a day off, let alone the cost of someone else's college tuition. I worked part-time at a diner. I barely made enough to save for my future, let alone pay for my brother's. My brother, who spent every weekend partying, who crashed my car twice, who had never worked a day in his life because, according to my parents, he needs to focus on school. And now I was supposed to pay his tuition? For a moment I didn't move. Then the panic hit me like a wave. I sank onto the bench in the staff room, hands shaking so violently I almost dropped my phone. A few seconds later, Mia, one of the waitresses and probably the closest thing I had to a friend, walked in. "Hey, you okay?" she asked gently. I opened my mouth, but the only thing that came out was a choked laugh. "No," I said, my voice cracking. "My parents sold my car." Her eyes widened. "What? Why?" And then I showed her the second text. She read it, blinked hard, and whispered, "They want you to pay $6,000? Are they insane?" I swallowed hard. "They think it's normal. They think it's my job." Mia didn't hide her anger. That's not normal. That's abuse. The word stung because deep down, I already knew. I had spent years convincing myself that my parents were strict, stressed, old-fashioned, anything but cruel. But looking at the messages, I couldn't deny it anymore. They didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a walking paycheck. My phone buzzed again. Dad, don't ignore your mother. Handle the tuition. Another buzz. Brother, hurry up, I need my schedule. No, happy birthday. No, thank you. Just demands. Something inside me cracked. Not a loud snap, but a quiet, final break. The kind that doesn't heal the same way again. Mia put a hand on my shoulder. What are you going to do? And for the first time in my life, I whispered the one word my parents never expected to hear from me. No. By the time my shift ended, my rage had simmered into something cold, calm enough to walk but sharp enough to cut through steel. I drove home on the bus, every stop jolting me back into the reality I still couldn't fully process. My parents had sold my car, my birthday gift to myself, my independence, and they didn't even blink. When I finally reached our driveway, I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty spot where my car should have been. All that remained was a faint oil stain on the concrete. The sight hollowed something out inside me. I pushed open the front door. My mother was at the kitchen counter scrolling through her phone like it was any other day. My father sat at the table drinking coffee and my brother lounged on the couch shouting at a video game. No one looked up. No one said a word. Not even happy birthday. I cleared my throat. Where's my car? Mom didn't even bother lifting her eyes. We told you. We sold it. You told me by text message. I snapped. On my birthday. Dad slammed his mug down. Watch your tone. Pie tone. I repeated, barely able to contain myself. You sold something that belonged to me. You had no right. Mom finally glanced up, annoyed rather than apologetic. Family comes first. Your brother needs an education. You're already working, you can help. I help plenty, I said, my voice trembling. I pay bills. I buy groceries. I fix things around the house. I work every day while he... My brother turned his head, smirking. Don't drag me into your meltdown. That did it. You expect me to pay $6,000 for his tuition? Why? I demanded. Dad stood, pointing a finger at me like a scolding parent from a bad movie. Because that's what families do. You contribute. I already contribute. I cried. More than both of you some months. And you repay me by selling my car. Mom rolled her eyes. Stop being dramatic. You'll get another car eventually. But your brother needs help now. He has a future. And I don't. I asked quietly. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that told me everything I needed to know. Mom crossed her arms. You're being selfish. Just transfer the money. We expect it done by Friday. My heart pounded. I'm not paying for his tuition. The room froze. Dad's face turned shades of red I didn't know humans could make. What did you say? I said no. My father stepped closer, voice rising. After everything we've done for you, you live under our roof. Eat our food. And this is how you repay us. I laughed, because the alternative was crying. Everything I have, I pay for myself. Dad's voice exploded through the house. Pack your things. You don't want to be part of this family? Fine. You're dead to me. Mom didn't argue. My brother didn't defend me. Not one person said, don't go. So I walked to my room, numb, knowing this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I don't remember opening my bedroom door. All I remember is the echo of my father's words following me like a shadow. You're dead to me. It's strange how quickly a lifetime of loyalty can be dismissed. How fast a parent can turn into a stranger. My hands trembled as I pulled a duffel bag from my closet. I wasn't packing for a trip. I was packing for exile. Clothes. Toothbrush. Work uniform. A couple of books. That was it. 18 years of life and it all fit into a single bag. Downstairs I could hear my parents whispering. Not worried. Not regretful. Just irritated. Annoyed that I wasn't cooperating, that their human ATM finally declined a transaction. My eyes landed on the only thing in my room that truly mattered. A thick binder tucked beneath my desk. Inside were years of receipts, bank statements, and handwritten records. Proof of every bill I'd paid, every emergency I covered, every contribution my parents claimed never happened. I hesitated. Then I made a choice. I pulled out one document, just one, and slipped it into my bag. The binder, however, I left exactly where it was. In plain sight. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. If they ever went looking for answers, if guilt ever cracked their armor, that binder would tell a story far more honest than the one they'd built in their heads. I zipped my bag and walked downstairs. My brother was sprawled on the couch, pretending to be absorbed in his game but watching me from the corner of his eye. "You're seriously leaving?" he asked, half amused. "You seriously expected me to stay?" I shot back. Mom appeared in the doorway, arms crossed tight. "If you walk out, don't expect to come back until you're ready to apologize." "For what?" I said. "For refusing to be your wallet?" She flinched just barely. "Dad didn't." He opened the front door with a dramatic flourish. "Go. You think you're grown? Prove it." The evening air hit my face, cold despite the summer. I stepped outside and turned back one last time. Not because I wanted to stay, but because a part of me had to see if anyone would stop me. Anyone. At all. But my mother stared like she was looking at a disobedient maid. My father looked triumphant. My brother, indifferent. So I walked. Down the driveway. Past the empty spot where my car should have been. Into a future I wasn't ready for, but one that was finally, unmistakably mine. And as the door slammed behind me, I didn't realize yet. By leaving that binder behind, I had just set the stage for their downfall. The streetlights buzzed faintly as I walked, the duffel bag heavy against my shoulder. It was only 8 p.m., but the world felt strangely silent, like even the night didn't know what to do with me. I kept walking until my legs ached, until anger dissolved into confusion, and confusion into something so sharp it stole the air from my lungs. By the time I reached the bus stop, I wasn't angry anymore. I was empty. I texted the only person who might actually care. "Me, are you home?" "Mia, yeah. You okay?" "Me, not really. Can I come over?" "Mia, of course." Doors unlocked. No questions. No judgment. Just an answer. When I finally arrived at her apartment, Mia pulled me into a hug before I even stepped fully inside. The smell of laundry detergent and vanilla candles wrapped around me like a blanket, so different from the cold, sharp air of my house. "What happened?" she asked softly. That was all it took. I collapsed onto her couch, burying my face in my hands as everything hit me at once. The sold car, the tuition demand, the shouting, the threat, the dismissal. The realization that I was alone. That my family had chosen my brother's convenience over my entire existence. Mia sat beside me, rubbing circles on my back. "Breathe. Just breathe." So I did. Fully. Painfully. "I have nowhere to go," I whispered. "Yes you do," she said firmly. "You can stay here. As long as you need." The kindness in her voice cracked something inside me. I had spent years being strong, responsible, dependable. Always the problem solver, never the problem. And now, sitting on her couch with puffy eyes and trembling hands, I felt small in a way I hadn't since childhood. "I don't understand how they can do this to me," I said. "I've helped them with everything. I've paid so many bills. I've given up so much." Mia didn't interrupt. She let me spill the words, let them tumble out like broken pieces of a life I wasn't sure how to rebuild. "They never appreciated it," she finally said. "They used you. And now that you said no, they're punishing you. Punishing me." The truth of it landed heavily. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider what that meant. What kind of parents would rather kick out their child than lose access to her income? Mia handed me a glass of water and a blanket. "You're not going back," she said quietly. "Not until you decide to. Not until they change." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Because somewhere deep inside, a small spark flickered. Not anger. Not grief. Something new. The beginning of a life where I finally put myself first. I woke up the next morning on Mia's couch, wrapped in the soft blanket she'd given me. For a moment I forgot where I was. The sunlight coming through her curtains felt warm, gentle. Nothing like the sharp, cold atmosphere of my parents' house. Then I heard it. Buzz. Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. My phone vibrated violently on the coffee table, the screen lighting up with call after call until it looked like it might explode. I blinked the sleep from my eyes and reached for it, expecting maybe a message from Mia's manager or a spam number. But it wasn't that. It was my parents. Mom, 11 missed calls. Dad, 18 missed calls. Brother, 7 missed calls. And messages. Dozens of them. My stomach twisted. What now? I whispered, heart pounding. Mia shuffled out of her bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Everything okay? I turned the screen so she could see the chaos. They won't stop calling. She frowned. Already? What do they want now? Another $6,000. I didn't know. But the sudden urgency, the sheer volume of missed calls, felt off. My parents were many things, but panicked was not one of them. With hesitant fingers, I opened the first voicemail. My mom's voice burst through the speaker, shaky and frantic. Call me back. Now. This is serious. I played the second voicemail. Why aren't you answering? Dad snapped. Get home immediately. We need to talk. The third voicemail was from my brother, and he sounded annoyed more than anything. You need to pick up. Just call them already. Mia raised an eyebrow. Wow. That escalated fast. I swallowed hard. Something had happened. Something they didn't want to put in writing. But instead of calling back, I scrolled through their texts. Mom, your father is furious. Pick up. Mom, you need to come home immediately. Dad, this isn't a joke. Answer your phone. Dad, you've caused a huge problem. Mom, please. We need you to explain this. Brother, why did you do this? They're freaking out. Explain what? I muttered. What did I do? Mia tilted her head. Did you leave anything behind? I almost said no. Almost. And then my mind flashed back to the moment in my room, the thick binder under my desk, the one I'd left out on purpose. My heart skipped. They must have found it. They must have read everything. All the bills. All the proof. All the money I'd covered over the years. Every lie they'd told themselves, exposed. Suddenly the frantic calls made sense. For the first time in their lives, they weren't in control. Mia smirked. Looks like someone's finally facing reality. My phone buzzed again. Dad calling. This time I didn't flinch. I let it ring. As for once, they needed me. The phone kept ringing, vibrating across the coffee table like it was trying to crawl toward me. But I just sat there, still, quiet, strangely calm, as if my body already knew the truth. My mind was just beginning to unravel. Mia sat across from me, legs tucked under a blanket, sipping her morning coffee. So, she said casually, are you going to tell me what you left behind that caused all this? I took a long breath. You remember that binder I told you about? The one where I kept every bill I paid, every receipt, every transfer. She nodded. Yeah. Your personal accountability Bible. I left it on purpose, I admitted. Her eyebrows rose. You wanted them to see it? I shook my head. Not exactly. I didn't know for sure they'd look. But a part of me hoped, just hoped, that if they ever saw proof of everything I've done for them, maybe they'd understand. Maybe they'd feel something. Guilt, she asked. I gave a hollow laugh. Reality. Because for years, my parents had rewritten history in their heads. To them I was the lucky one. The obedient one. The stable one. The one who never needed help, never complained, never asked for anything other than the chance to sleep occasionally between double shifts. And my brother, oh my brother, was the golden child. The future. The one whose needs came first always, because he's not as strong as you. But strength isn't a compliment when it becomes a burden. So yes, I left the binder. And something inside me had known they'd eventually open it. I unlocked my phone again, scrolling through more frantic messages until finally one stood out. From my mom. How could you hide this from us? How long have you been tracking everything? Another message from Dad followed seconds later. You're overreacting. These numbers aren't accurate. Call me immediately. Another from my brother. Why did you make it look like you paid for everything? Mom says you're lying. That one made my chest tighten. Mia rolled her eyes. Classic deflection. They're not sorry. They're scared. Of what? I whispered. She set her mug down gently. Of the truth. I closed my eyes, picturing the scene unfolding in my old bedroom that morning. My mother picking up the binder, curious. My father scoffing, saying, it's nothing. My brother leaning over her shoulder, smirking. The pages turning. Page after page revealing electricity bills paid in my name. Gas bills. Grocery receipts. Emergency dental bills for my brother. Car repairs I covered. School supplies. Rent shortages. Loan payments my parents took from me temporarily, but never repaid. Everything. In black and white. Years of hidden sacrifices they had pretended not to notice suddenly laid out like a mirror they couldn't turn away from. For a moment I imagined the silence. Maybe even the shame. But then I remembered who I was dealing with. My parents didn't handle being wrong. They handled it by rewriting the story. Mia nudged me. They're panicking because they can't twist the truth anymore. And they know you finally see it. My phone buzzed again, another call from Dad. I didn't answer. Instead I leaned back and whispered, this is the first time in my life they've needed me more than I need them. And God, that feeling was powerful. By noon the frantic calls slowed, but only because something bigger was happening on their end. I could feel it, like tension tightening the air around me. My parents weren't the type to panic over emotions. They panicked over problems. Real ones. Expensive ones. And those were finally starting to appear. It began with a text from my brother, short and furious. You messed everything up. They're yelling. Fix this now. I didn't even dignify that with a response. 10 minutes later another message came, this time from my dad. Call me immediately. There's an issue with the car sale. I stared at the screen and a slow, almost involuntary smile crept onto my face. The missing paperwork. Of course. When I bought my car I kept every official document in a small locked file under my bed. Insurance papers, registration, maintenance records. Everything. My parents didn't know where it was, and in their rush to sell something that wasn't theirs, they had handed the buyer incomplete paperwork. Which meant, the buyer was now demanding answers. Mia peered over my shoulder. Oh, this is Rich. I opened Dad's next message. The buyer is threatening legal action unless we provide the title transfer papers. Where are they? A warm, satisfying calm settled over me. You know exactly where they are, I murmured. Still safe. Still untouched. Still mine. Before I could decide whether to reply, another notification appeared, this time from my mother. Your brother's tuition didn't go through. The college dropped his enrollment. They're saying the deadline passed. Why didn't you tell us you weren't paying? My jaw dropped slightly. They expected me to warn them? To remind them of the mess they created? To save them from the consequences of their own entitlement? I laughed under my breath. It felt foreign but freeing. Mia crossed her arms. So the car deal is collapsing, the tuition didn't get paid, and they finally realized how much they depended on you. That binder wasn't just a wake-up call, I said. It was a financial bomb. And it had detonated perfectly. Another message came in rapid succession. Dad, electricity bill is overdue. Why didn't you take care of it before you left? Mom, the late fees are piling up. You know your father and I can't cover everything. Mia let out a low whistle. Wow. They really expected you to handle every detail of their lives. The most painful part? I had. For years. But not anymore. I set my phone face down and exhaled. They're scrambling, I said quietly. And for the first time, I'm not the one fixing everything. I wasn't their safety net anymore. They were falling. And they were falling hard. By the next day, the chaos inside my parents' house had spilled far beyond their walls, and into the one thing they valued even more than money. Their reputation. It started with a message from my aunt, my mom's older sister, the one who always pretended our family was perfect. Aunt Lisa, honey, is everything okay? Your parents are saying awful things about you online. Call me. Online. My stomach sank and I opened Facebook. There was a dramatic post from my mother, written like she was the victim of some tragic betrayal. Sometimes the child you love the most hurts you the worst. Please pray for us during this difficult time. Hundreds of comments followed. I'm so sorry. You're such a good mother. Kids these days are ungrateful. My chest tightened, not from guilt but from the twisted familiarity of it. My mother had always been a master at manipulating sympathy. But something was different this time. Under the comments, voices of disagreement started to appear. A neighbor. Is this about your daughter moving out? Didn't she pay your bills? An old coworker of my dad's. Heard something about a sold car? What's going on? Then a friend of my brother chimed in. Bro said you kicked her out? Mia leaned over my shoulder. Ooh, they're losing control of the narrative. She wasn't wrong. My mother's replies became defensive, scattered. My father jumped into the comments, arguing, insisting they'd done everything for me. My brother added a string of insults that only made him look childish. The perfect family image they'd cultivated for years, cracking publicly. But the real hit came at noon. Another message popped up. This time from our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Green, the woman who had known me since I was 5. Sweetheart, your parents came to my house this morning demanding to know if you were staying here. They looked frantic. I told them no. Are you safe? I swallowed hard. They were searching for me. Not out of worry, oh no. Out of panic. Because the problems were piling up faster than they could fix them. Electricity bill overdue. Car buyer threatening legal action. Brother dropped from enrollment. Social circle asking questions they couldn't answer. And worst of all, they no longer had access to the person who usually fixed everything. Me. Mia nudged me gently. How does it feel? I thought about it. Strange. Surreal. Liberating. For the first time, I said slowly, they're being seen for who they really are. Another buzz. This time from Aunt Lisa again. Your mom is crying. Your dad is furious. They said you set them up. I told them maybe this is the wake-up call they needed. A wake-up call. Yes. But the alarm had just begun to ring. And they still refused to get out of bed. In the days that followed, something unexpected began to happen. While my parents spiraled deeper into panic, excuses, and public meltdowns, my own life finally started to feel like mine. It began quietly, almost unnoticeably. The first morning I woke up in Mia's apartment, sunlight warming my face, no one shouting, no demands waiting for me, no guilt hanging over my head like a storm cloud. I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not the fragile, temporary peace I used to steal in 5-minute breaks at work. Not the peace that came from tiptoeing around my parents' moods. Real peace. I made myself breakfast. Actual breakfast, not the leftover crusts or whatever was left after my brother raided the fridge. I sat at the kitchen table with Mia, sipping coffee, laughing at some dumb meme she showed me. And for once in my life, nothing was required of me. No one told me I owed them anything. No one handed me a bill. No one guilt-tripped me for wanting a moment of rest. It was strange. Beautifully strange. Later that afternoon I headed to work, expecting to drag myself through another exhausting shift. But something had shifted inside me. Instead of carrying the weight of my parents' expectations, I walked in light, almost relieved. My manager pulled me aside. You've been working yourself to death, she said. How'd you like a few more hours, maybe a server position? You're good with people. And it pays better. A raise. A promotion. And the first choice I'd been given in years. Yes, I said before I could overthink it. I'd love that. She smiled. Good. You deserve it. Later, I took a bus to a small apartment complex a few blocks from the diner. It wasn't fancy, peeling paint, squeaky stairs, questionable carpeting, but it was affordable. And the landlord didn't care that I was young or newly independent. He just asked if I had pay stubs. I did. Plenty. Looks good, he said. You can move in next week. Just like that. My first apartment. My space. My freedom. My beginning. Mia hugged me when I told her. See? The universe is finally giving you what your parents never did. A life. We spent the next few days planning how I'd decorate my new place. Thrift store finds, secondhand furniture, maybe a little plant near the window. I started budgeting, carefully, meticulously, this time for my needs. Every small decision felt like reclaiming a part of myself. At night, lying on the couch, scrolling through listings for used cars I might one day save up for, I realized something profound. My parents had taken so much from me. My time. My money. My childhood. My sense of worth. But the moment I walked out their door, I began taking it all back. Piece by piece. Choice by choice. Day by day. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was growing. Healing. Becoming someone new. Someone strong. Someone free. My new apartment still smelled like fresh paint and cheap carpet glue when the knock came. 3 sharp hits. Not hesitant. Not polite. Urgent. Mia, who had helped me carry in the last box, froze mid-step. You expecting someone? I shook my head. Nobody knows my new address. Another knock, louder this time. My stomach tightened. Mia peeked through the peephole, then turned to me with wide eyes. It's your parents. My heart dropped. I wasn't ready. Not for them. Not for whatever explosion they were bringing with them. So I opened the door just a crack. My mother stood there first, eyes red and swollen, gripping her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. Behind her, my father's jaw was set tight, anger simmering beneath the surface. My brother hovered in the back, arms crossed, scowling. Sweetheart, please, my mother whispered, trying to squeeze herself through the door as if she had any right to enter my space. We need to talk. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, blocking Mia from their view. What do you want? My father cut in before she could speak. You need to come home. This has gone on long enough. I raised an eyebrow. Gone on long enough? I left 2 days ago. Yes, he snapped. And everything is falling apart since you did. The car buyer is demanding paperwork. Your brother's college is threatening to pull his scholarship. The electric company is calling non-stop. Those are your responsibilities, I interrupted calmly. Mom shook her head, voice trembling. We didn't realize how much you did, how much you handled. The binder, those papers, why would you keep all that? Because you pretended I didn't do anything, I said quietly. It was the only way to convince myself I wasn't crazy. My father exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Look, we can figure this out. Just come home. We'll talk about tuition and bills. There's nothing to talk about, I said. My brother scoffed. So you just get to walk away? What about college? You ruined everything. I stared at him. I'm not responsible for your life, or your choices, or your future. My mother reached for my hand. We're a family. Families forgive. That word family hit harder than it should have. Family protects. Family supports. Family doesn't sell your car on your birthday. I stepped back. You didn't treat me like family. You treated me like income. My father's face tightened. My mother crumbled. My brother growled something under his breath. And for the first time ever, I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I didn't bend. Instead, I said the words they never expected to hear. I'm not coming home. For a moment, no one spoke. The hallway outside my new apartment felt frozen in time. My mother's breath hitching, my father's jaw locking, my brother glaring at me like I'd personally set his future on fire. I'm not coming home, I repeated, stronger this time. My mother's face crumpled. Honey, don't do this. We're sorry, okay? We didn't realize how much we depended on you. The binder, all those bills, we didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said quietly. My father stepped forward, the old authoritative boom returning to his voice. Enough of this nonsense. You made your point. Now stop being dramatic and come home so we can solve these problems. I stared at him. Solve these problems. Not my problems. Not our problems. Their problems. All the ones they created without thinking I might someday refuse to clean up their messes. No, I said again, my voice steady. I'm done solving everything for you. My father blinked, stunned, not by the words, but by the fact that I didn't back down afterward. Usually he'd raise his voice and I'd fold. Usually my mother would cry and I'd comfort her. Usually my brother would complain and I'd fix whatever he needed. Not today. My mother wiped her cheeks. We were wrong. We should have appreciated you. But families stick together. Your brother's future is at stake. He can't lose his enrollment. He lost it because you assumed I would fix everything. I cut in. You didn't even ask. You didn't consider my finances, my dreams, my responsibilities. You just decided for me. My brother jumped in, voice harsh. You were supposed to help me. Mom and Dad said you would. You ruined my college. No, I said softly. Your entitlement did. His face twisted, but he didn't argue. My father's voice cracked, not with anger this time, but something unfamiliar. Fear. What do you expect us to do? We don't have the money for the bills. The car buyer is threatening to sue. The electric company is shutting power off tomorrow. We're drowning. You can't just watch this happen. Something in me softened. Not toward them, but toward the younger version of me who would have given everything to keep them afloat. I'm not watching you drown, I said. I'm watching you learn to swim. Without me dragging behind you. My mother trembled. We're your parents. And I'm your daughter, I replied. But you never treated me like one. You treated me like a financial plan. Tears slid down her cheeks. My father opened his mouth twice before words finally came out, strained, small. We need you. The admission stunned me. But I shook my head. You need to take responsibility. Not me. I took a breath, then said the words I'd carried for years. I will not sacrifice my life so you can avoid the consequences of your choices. My father swallowed hard. My mother sobbed. My brother stared at the floor. This time nobody ordered me. Nobody demanded. Nobody guilt-tripped. They finally understood I meant every word. And for the first time in 18 years, I felt free. My parents stood in the hallway like they'd been carved from stone. Silent, shaken, unsure of how to respond now that their old tactics no longer worked. For years, guilt and obligation had been their strongest tools. But today those tools shattered. My mother finally wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. We can start over. Please. As a family. I shook my head. Talking means listening. Really listening. And for years you didn't. My father crossed his arms, but there was no power behind the gesture anymore. So that's it? You're just leaving us behind. I'm not leaving you, I said gently. I'm stepping away so you can stop leaving your responsibilities to me. My brother scoffed loudly. This is selfish. You're acting like you're perfect. No, I said, turning to him. I'm acting like a person who deserves a life that isn't built around covering your mistakes. His expression faltered, because deep down he recognized the truth in those words. My mother reached for my arm again but stopped mid-motion, letting her hand fall. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. Understanding. Or at least the beginning of it. We'll figure it out, she whispered almost to herself. We'll figure something out. Yes, I said softly. You will. My father exhaled, looking older than I'd ever seen him. For a moment I saw the man he could have been. The one who might have supported me instead of exploiting me. But regret doesn't erase reality. I stood taller, feeling the weight of every year I'd spent bending break off me piece by piece. I'm not abandoning you. I'm just not carrying you anymore. The wind rustled through the hallway. My parents looked at me not with anger now, but with something far more unfamiliar to them. Respect. Or maybe fear. Or both. My mother opened her mouth again, but I gently shook my head. This is where my boundary stands, I said. You can choose to meet me there someday. But I'm done being the only one sacrificing. My father's shoulders sagged. My brother looked away. No one argued. No one begged. No one demanded. They finally understood. The breaking point wasn't my collapse. It was my awakening. And as I walked back into my apartment, closing the door behind me, I realized. Some endings don't destroy you. They rebuild you. The days that followed were strangely quiet. Not the empty, aching quiet I grew up with, but a peaceful one. A quiet that came from distance, boundaries, and finally choosing myself. My parents didn't come back to my apartment. They couldn't. They had their own unraveling to deal with. I didn't hear from them directly, but news traveled fast in a small community. Especially when the perfect family facade finally cracked. From Aunt Lisa, I learned the electricity had been shut off for 2 days before they scraped together enough money to pay it. From our neighbor Mrs. Green, I heard that the car buyer had shown up at the house demanding the missing documents, threatening small claims court if they didn't resolve it soon. From one of my brother's friends who messaged me unexpectedly, I learned he had lost his spot at the university. Any scholarship, any grace period, they were gone. He now had to find a job, something he'd never done before. And my father? People at his workplace had overheard him arguing with the car buyer on the phone. Word spread quickly that he had mishandled a personal sale. His pristine reputation, the one he preened more carefully than anything else, was now stained with whispers of irresponsibility. My mother wasn't doing much better. Her Facebook post had backfired spectacularly. When people started asking real questions, the sympathy she expected evaporated. Some even defended me publicly, reminding her I had worked nonstop since I was 16. For the first time in my life, the truth wasn't hidden. People finally saw. Meanwhile, my life transformed quietly, beautifully. My apartment began to feel like home. Second-hand furniture filled the space with character. I bought a tiny plant that leaned toward the morning sun. I worked extra shifts, not out of fear but choice. My savings slowly started rebuilding. My confidence too. I wasn't responsible for their bills, their choices, their chaos. I was responsible for me. And that small, ordinary freedom tasted sweeter than anything I'd ever known. A full year passed, 12 months that felt like walking out of a storm and slowly learning what sunlight felt like. My little apartment transformed into something warm, lived-in mine. The second-hand couch, the thrift store lamp, the tiny plant that refused to die, it all became part of a life I was finally building for myself. And somewhere between the late-night budgeting sessions, early morning shifts, and learning how to unclog my own sink, I rediscovered something I thought had been taken from me forever. My sense of worth. By spring, I had saved enough to buy a used car. Not as fancy as the one my parents sold, but reliable, clean, and purchased entirely with my own money. When I drove it off the lot, windows down, music blasting, I cried. Not because of the car, but because I had finally proven something to myself. I could succeed without them. I could live without them. I could be without them. Then one quiet Sunday afternoon, a message appeared on my phone. "Mom, we'd like to talk. When you're ready." I stared at it for a long time before replying. A few days later we met at a small cafe. Neutral ground. My parents arrived looking smaller somehow, like the weight of the past year had finally forced them to face themselves. My father was the first to speak. His voice wasn't booming or angry. It was soft. "We're sorry," he said. "For everything." My mother nodded, eyes already misty. "We didn't understand how much we relied on you, or how unfair we were. When you left, everything fell apart." I listened, not out of obligation but curiosity. These were words I never thought I'd hear. "We've started budgeting," my mom continued. "Your father picked up a second job. Your brother is working too. He's taking online classes, paying for them himself. A year ago I would have rushed to fix their problems. Now I simply nodded. "I'm glad you're learning," I said. My father swallowed. "Do you think one day we could have the relationship we used to?" I met his eyes. "No," I said gently. "Not the relationship we used to. That one hurt me too much." Their faces fell slightly until I continued. "But maybe we can build a new one. Fully. Healthier. With boundaries." My mother reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand, waiting, respecting something she'd never respected before. This time I let her. Because forgiveness isn't forgetting. Forgiveness is choosing not to carry the weight anymore. When we finished talking, we stood outside the cafe. The breeze was warm, the afternoon quiet. My father looked at me, really looked, like he was seeing his daughter for the first time, not the wallet he'd mistaken her for. "You deserve happiness," he said softly. And maybe for the first time in years. I believed him. As I drove home, windows down again, I realized something profound. The day my parents said I was dead to them was the day I finally came alive. And this time, my life belonged to me.